Sorry if you hear a lot of bings and boops on my end with my computer. Oh my gosh, so many people. Wow. Okay, that's people from all over. Oh my God. Global presence. Hi from Ecuador. Connecticut, Tokyo. Oh my gosh. Nice. Some Cali folks. Amazing. University of Michigan. Canada. Oh, Switzerland. Wow. Amazing. Okay, so we got a lot of students in here. All right, I still see like a lot of people joining, so we'll just give it. I just want to give some people time before we jump in and start. This is awesome. Thank you guys so much for jumping in. If any of you were able to attend some other sessions in the morning, I would love to hear what you liked from the summit so far. I didn't get to attend the stuff happening this morning, but I was there yesterday in person, and it was amazing. Oh, hi, Maya. Current internet in DC. Amazing. San Diego. I'm in San Diego, actually. Hello from UK. Pasadena, not too far away. I'm from Peru, very far away. Hong Kong, Italy. Oh my God, amazing. Love it. Thanks, guys, for sharing all this. Hi, Devin. I remember you.
Hi.
All right, so let's get started. We're about 3 minutes in now. All right. Still see some people jumping in, so we'll try to make sure that's not too distracting for y'all. Okay, when I turn on closed captioning, does it make the slideshow a lot smaller for you all? Because it does on my end. I don't know if that's the same for you. Can you guys see the slides okay? Okay, looks good. All right, nice. Love it. Okay, thanks, guys. All right, I wasn't sure. Okay. All right, so unfortunately, Google Meet doesn't have like a formal Q&A section. So once I do ask that you keep questions on pause for just a second, allow me to kind of go through this presentation. I don't want your questions to kind of get lost in the whole chat. So for now, keep the chat, with other tidbits of, reactions and things like that. I'll be going in and trying to read as much as I can, and then save your questions for the end so that they don't get lost in the chat. Okay. But, all right. Okay, I think we should go ahead and get started then. It looks like still a lot of people are joining. Unfortunately, I have to admit them one by one, which is super annoying, but that's okay. All right, we got almost 200 folks in here. Pretty cool. All right, there's a little reaction button at the bottom with the smiley face on there. So I would love to kind of see your guys' reactions as I'm talking through some of the points here, just so that I can kind of get a feel for how you guys are feeling about the topics. Love it. Okay, amazing. Thanks, y'all. Y'all are the best. Hey, Sophie. Okay. All right, I was waiting on Sarah to join, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and get started here.
Rabia, I'm here.
Oh, hey.
Hi.
Hi.
I've been admitting people. It's like nonstop.
Okay, that's how that was happening. I was like, oh my God, I have to admit these people one by one? Okay. All right. All right. I think we waited long enough. 5 minutes in, 6 minutes in now. So maybe we should get started. Are you good, Sarah?
Sounds good. I'll admit as we go through the presentation.
All right, cool. And then if you guys hear those pings every time somebody is being let in, sorry, that's my computer. I can't shut that sound off. So just bear with me for a second here. Okay, so putting your best foot forward and landing an internship in animation. My name is Rabia Abedin. I'm on the DreamWorks Animation recruitment team, and I lead the early career programs team specifically. So we're a smaller subset of that larger recruiting team. If you're interested in, some of the programs out there, the best way to find out what they are, go to your favorite studio's website. They usually have a careers page. Look through the whole that section of that careers page. We personally at DreamWorks have one specifically for early careers programs, and that's dreamworks.com/early careers. Okay, so this presentation really is meant to kind of give you a holistic overview of landing an internship really anywhere. We try to focus it a little bit more on animation, of course, but the recruitment process we're going to share to kind of give you an inside look of how that happens is specifically referring to the way things are done at DreamWorks Animation. But for the most part, you can kind of take the learnings that you hear today and really kind of take that and apply it to anywhere that you apply. So just wanted to keep that in mind there. All right, so this is the early careers team specifically at DreamWorks Animation. In case you want to connect with us, feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn. We are a very lean but mean team of 3 people. Myself, I am the senior manager of the early careers, or a very long title, early career programs and diversity outreach. We also have Sarah Park here today. She's our early careers recruiter. I'll punt it over to her in a second to introduce herself. And then we also have Tatiana, who is our coordinator on the team. So Sarah, do you want to share anything?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Sarah Park. I'm the recruiter on the DreamWorks Early Career Programs and Diversity Outreach team. I've been at DreamWorks for 2 years now, and prior to coming to DreamWorks, I worked in colleges and universities on the counseling side, so really helping students get connected to internships and jobs and figure out their career paths. And so a lot of what I do at the studio is communicate with students, organizations, universities, a lot of outreach, and get students plugged into our programs here at the studio. So a lot of talking with students, recent graduates, and those who might be pivoting in their careers as well. So nice to meet you all. Thank you so much for being here. We are officially at about 220, which is crazy.
I know this.
Thanks for spending your Saturday with us.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Saturday, well, morning here for us. But thanks, y'all. Thank you, Sarah. So you got a little bit in terms of, what she does here for the studio. I've been with the studio for 5 years, and, there is the internship program here, of course, and there's a couple of other programs under our belt as well. So we have trainees, we have launch fellows. I see some of them in the chat here. Hey, launch fellows. And an apprentice program as well. So we have a couple different programs under our belt, and then of course we do a lot of outreach, so partnering with wonderful organizations like BRIC and other local and national level organizations and foundations across the country to bring in underrepresented talent into the studio and partner with them in other ways. So that is us. All right, so jumping right in, landing an internship in animation. Let's talk about it. So we're going to try to discuss the best ways to position yourself for an internship. One of the most common questions we get is like, what are you looking for in an intern, right? Exploring some of the various roles and career paths in animation. If animation is a little bit less familiar to you, we'll kind of walk through that and what that looks like, especially for the opportunities at our studio. Understanding the sought after skills that we're looking for again, and then walking you also through what the average recruitment process would look like if you're going to be considered for an internship. All right, so starting off with careers in animation, this is typically what you'll find. We've got production management or production, you can call it one or the other, storyboarding, visual development, animation, More niche roles in the pipeline, like lighting, rigging, image finaling, modeling. I didn't list them all here, but this is just a few of those niche roles. Development, casting, talent relations. Then we go into more technical opportunities as well for our programmers, our software engineers out there. We have TDs or technical directors, software engineering roles. These are the folks that are making the software and making sure it's running correctly. We have a lot of amazing proprietary software that was created in-house by our R&D teams for our artists specifically, which is now award-winning software, which is pretty cool. And then other areas that most people may not think of when they think of animation, but like the people also helping to make the studio run. So marketing, PR, accounting, finance, HR, just to name a few. So these are some of the paths there. And you can find this pretty similar across most studios that are most of the major studios, at least. Okay. All right. So again, like I mentioned earlier, some of the most common questions that we get as being in this field is, what are you looking for in an intern, right? So like looking outside of the basic job description, like here's the basic qualifications, here's what you need to do in order to get the job done. But beyond that, like I've been doing a lot of conversations this past couple of weeks about those soft skills, and that's where this comes in. So you can be as amazing on paper, through your portfolio, through your demo reel, but you have to be a lot of these things as well in order to land that internship or really make a good impression when you're talking to a recruiter, when you're meeting with the hiring team for an interview. So some of those things, of course, the first and foremost is, do you have the artistic talent and the creativity, right? Like that's going to show through your portfolio, through your demo reel, through your resume. But what we're going to look for after that initial first pass is this list of things, right? Are you hungry to learn? Are you going to come in here and be curious, ask questions, have attention to detail in your day-to-day, right? I have interns on my team specifically, and the attention to detail thing is something that is so important to me, and I kind of learned that about myself as an intern manager, is interns who kind of value that attention to detail, catch things that maybe I didn't catch, ask questions to identify gaps and opportunities. That's what I personally love, but that's something that if I love it, a lot of people, other intern managers are going to want that as well, because if you don't have attention to detail, I promise you it'll be very apparent the second that you don't, and it's going to be something that you're going to be asked to work on. So that attention to detail in your work. A positive attitude, right? Attitude is everything. You can be the best artist, the most like on paper, your resume is absolutely stellar. But if you come in with a poor attitude, no one is going to want to work with you, right? We are spending more time in the office working with our colleagues than we are with our families. And we want to make sure that we are working with good people, right? Who are fun to work with, who have a positive attitude. So definitely attitude is something that we are looking for, right? Like leave your ego at the door, come in ready to roll up your sleeves and work. That's the type of, work ethic and attitude that we're looking for. And I think our workforce really reflects that, don't you, Sarah? I think like the people that we work with here are not only really good at what they do, they're extremely creative, but they're good to work with. They are good people. They're kind. They make time out to help you. That is all positive attributes, and that's kind of what we are looking for in our interns as well. Self-motivated, because you have to want it. If you don't want it, it becomes so clear from day one, right? It goes back to your attitude, your demeanor, your body language. You have to want to be there, right? And really take full advantage of that opportunity. And so we see an array of this when it comes to interns, right? There's those who are, again, hungry and curious, and those people are going to be self-motivated. But those who aren't showing that hunger and curiosity for wanting to be there, wanting to learn, wanting to absorb everything that they can, that self-motivation is also going to be affected, and we'll be able to see right through that. So that the way that this shows up, I think, can be in a number of ways. But when we're thinking about those soft skills, right? Are you engaged in meetings? Are you actively listening? If you are having a one-on-one with your leader, with your art director, with your production designer, with your, whoever it is, are you asking questions? Are you seeking out feedback, right? Like, you're self-motivated. That is something that we absolutely love. Of course, unafraid to ask questions. As an intern, this is, I think it's definitely a skill, right? To be able to come in and be comfortable in raising your hand in a room full of people who you may not, you're still building a rapport with them, but to be able to raise your hand and ask a question like, hey, I don't really understand this. Like, you keep using this acronym, like, we have a ton of acronyms here. So, like, we try to arm our interns right off the bat with like a whole production Bible, and like with all these, things that are kind of really well known within our studio of acronyms and things like that. But we don't expect you to know everything, right? And so we want you to ask questions, and we hope that we're creating an environment. I hope that every studio, every place is creating an environment where interns are comfortable to ask questions. And if you don't feel comfortable, then there's an issue there, right? But we hope that even, you find yourself liberated enough to be able to raise your hand and ask questions, or like ask to pause in that meeting, in that conversation, and say, I don't really understand what that means. Can you explain that? Or like, you mentioned this, a couple minutes ago. Can we go back to that, right? Like, that shows for me a lot of like emotional maturity, professionalism. You're again going back to that active listening. You're curious. You're asking those questions. That is what we want to see in an intern. I've had intern managers come and tell me kind of feedback about their interns. And they would say, like, this person was lovely. We loved having them on the team, but sometimes we didn't really know if they were getting it. Like, we'd be sitting in a meeting, kind of sharing with them how something works, the pipeline, introducing them to an artist, kind of sharing this a little bit more about the software. And they would just kind of be nodding and not taking notes, not asking any questions. And so when we're not really sure if it registered up there, right? So again, that question piece, that hunger, that curiosity, it goes a really, really long way. And then passion, of course, like being passionate, like, you have to want to be here. If you don't want to be here, don't apply, right? Like, you can have, again, all the skills on the paper, on the resume, that makes you qualified. But you have to really want it. And if you don't want it, again, it's going to show. We're going to know, right? Like, it becomes very apparent by the small things, your body language, how you're engaging with the team, the conversations that you're having, or the lack thereof. So those who are passionate and want to be here, that's who we want. All right. Okay. So how to put your best foot forward. Ways to position yourself as a strong candidate. These are a few things, but these are the tried and true things. If you can master this, you should be able to move on to an interview stage. So first and foremost, as you apply, you're going to have your resume, right? That is your ticket into any industry. So you have to make it count. A lot of people use this as like, oh, okay, let me just like do this, right? And then I'm going to put together this one pager, or like, I'm not going to put a lot onto it. I'm just going to like throw everything on the page and submit. Be very intentional with your resume. Every internship you apply to, any job you apply to, should be catered to the job that you are applying to. I'm going to repeat that again. Please, please, please tailor your resume to the job. And if you do that, I guarantee it will get noticed by a recruiter. Customize your objective, customize your professional summary, whatever you have at the top to kind of share about, who you are, that quick little tidbit that before jumping into your experience. Read the job description. That is how you're going to tailor your resume, right? Do your research, understand the studio's cultures and values, and figure out how you can kind of display those similar cultures and values that you share with the studio, and display that in your resume, display it in your cover letter. And by the way, going into cover letters, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, okay? I know they are annoying. I know half the time people don't even read them, but there have been so many times where a manager came back to me and said, hey, I saw their resume, but do they have a cover letter? And because I'm nice, I go back to the candidate and say, hey, give me a cover letter right now because this manager's asking for it. I don't want to have to do that. No one else is going to do that, but I've done that before because your recruiter is going to be hopefully in your court and want you to succeed. So I did that for my candidates because I wanted them to move forward and succeed. But in reality, no one is going to do that for you. Always have a cover letter so nobody has to ask you. They're not going to ask you. They're not going to be as nice with me. So always have a cover letter. That will be your ticket into sharing. Again, you might be asking, well, how do I share? How do I show my passion? How do I show that I align with your studio's culture and your values and that I want to be here? How do I show that? That's through your cover letter. Okay. So use that opportunity. Do not blow it. Use that opportunity to share who you are, share a little bit about yourself. It's the opportunity for you to share whatever's not on your resume, whatever you can't really share on your resume, like your personality. It's hard to have that come across on your resume. Your cover letter is going to be able to do that. Keep it short. Your cover letter is not an essay, right? It's like 3 paragraphs maximum 3 paragraphs. 1 page should not be more than 1 page. Your resume should not be more than 1 page. I will fight you on this. Don't even argue with me. It should be 1 page. If it's over a page, go back and redo it. Most of you from the chat, you are students, so it shouldn't be. I would say my rule of thumb is the only time it's acceptable to go over 2 pages is if you have more than 10 years of experience. That's hard to fit on 1 page. Most of you, it seems like, are students. If you're still in school or you're right out of school, you don't need to have more than a page of a resume. You never should have more than a page of a cover letter for sure. Cover letter doesn't have anything to do with years of experience. It should be a page. Keep it concise, right? Especially if you're applying to a role that requires writing. Absolutely, you should have a cover letter. No, there should be no reason why you don't. If you're applying to, an internship in public relations, in marketing, as a, script coordinator, development, definitely have a cover page. Excuse me, a cover letter. Okay, so do your research. Do your research on the studio. What I do when I talk to candidates, and I'm sure Sarah does this as well, is we will ask, okay, what's your favorite DreamWorks TV show? A lot of people don't know we have TV shows at our studio. We have DreamWorks feature film, right? They create the feature films, and we also have DreamWorks television animation. A lot of our shows, CG and 2D shows, are on Netflix, Hulu, Apple, right? Like, who doesn't have Netflix these days? If you haven't seen a show, I would highly recommend you watch some of our shows. They are amazing. Orion and in the Dark, one of our newest streaming feature films. Go watch it. Absolutely charming. She-Ra, Voltron. Heck yeah, you guys know this. Okay, amazing. Kipo, yes. So you guys know this. This is amazing. I love it. There are candidates that we receive and come through our database who aren't as familiar, and I'm like, yo, you're applying to a marketing internship for DreamWorks Television. You're going to be marketing our TV shows. How have you not seen any of our shows? Or at least go in and say, okay, I'm going to go watch a few episodes. Okay, right? So that's doing your watch our content. That is doing research. Okay, showcasing your passion. Okay, I mentioned this earlier. It's hard to do that on a resume. However, you guys are in a creative industry, right? We know that. And I think you're in a really cool position where you can actually kind of show your passion for the industry through your resume. Add a splash of color, add a caricature. You don't have to do any of these things, mind you, but that's a way that some people show their passion, right? And that's totally acceptable in this industry. Probably not so much in any other industry, okay? Don't go crazy with that though. Everything in moderation. But you can also kind of share your passion for the industry through other things. Like say you don't have any internship experience. You've worked at the mall, you worked at Starbucks, you're a barista, you got some customer service. That's awesome. Put all of that on there. But how do you show your passion for the animation industry? Are you a part of Women in Animation? Did you attend the BRIC Summit? What workshops have you taken? What courses have you taken that are relevant to this industry? Have you ever volunteered for CTN or the Lightbox Expo or any sort of like animation type of conference? Have you been a TA at your school or founded a club or were the vice president of the Pencil Mileage Club at your school, right? So that's showing passion for this industry. Are you involved in this community of animators, right? Of artists. So that's showcasing relevant, experience, relevant internships, relevant projects. If you don't have internships, a lot of people ask, can I put in, my senior film, my group project? Absolutely, please do. There's a way to kind of put that in a professional manner on your resume. I wouldn't really put that under work experience because it probably wasn't like a paid work experience, but you can kind of put that under like, academic experience. Create your own little section for that. And then please practice your interviewing skills. If you apply to something, anything, please be prepared to at any moment be reached out by a recruiter because you applied. So you're really opening yourself up to say, hey, I'm available, would love to be considered for this opportunity. That is what you're saying when you apply. So when a recruiter picks up the phone and calls you, sometimes it might be out of the blue, like me, I do that. I don't have time to email you, but people aren't as nice to me or aren't as mean as me. I think that's a really rude thing to do, and I admit that, but I do that sometimes. But in my perspective, I think you should be ready and available. I'm not ready, but you should be at least ready to speak about yourself and say, oh yes, I remember applying to this. Yes, I would love to chat with you. Or if you're not available at that moment, saying, just walking into class, can I call you in an hour? Can we schedule some time? Great, let's schedule some time to talk. When that time has been scheduled to talk with the recruiter, be ready to do your elevator pitch. Share who you are in a succinct way, 60 seconds or less, why you feel like you're a good fit for the role, who you are, right? Why you applied. And then be prepared to answer the questions that they might have. That first initial, we'll go into the recruitment process in just a second, but that first initial phone call is going to usually be from a recruiter. So be prepared to speak to a recruiter. And that's why practice your interviewing skills right off the bat. Do that now. If you're going to be getting ready to apply or you've already applied for the summer, be ready and prepared to be able to speak to a recruiter. Be ready to have an interview scheduled in the next couple of days, right? Be ready for that. Practice those interviewing skills. Practice your elevator pitch. Practice how you're going to expertly speak to your skill set, to your achievements that are listed on your resume, and apply that to the job that you applied to, and share that verbally in a conversation. Okay, it's really, really unfortunate when we come across people who are great on paper, but they can't, in a professional manner, explain all the great things that they've done and why they feel like they're a good fit for the role, and why they're so passionate about applying to our studio. That is a missed opportunity. And had they just practiced a little bit, done a little bit of research beforehand, they probably would have gotten an interview. Okay, so putting your best foot forward through your resume, through your cover letter. I didn't touch portfolio, which I'm sure you guys have a lot of questions on. That could be a whole nother 2-hour conversation. But just right off the bat, I will say putting your best foot forward with your portfolio, but try to make sure it's digitized. I think digital portfolios, we're in 2024, y'all. I think any recruiter would really appreciate a digital portfolio. There's a lot of free websites out there where you can create one. Make sure it's organized, right? Making sure it's easy to navigate, thinking about user experience first and foremost when you're creating that portfolio. Making sure you have your contact information on there, making sure your resume has contact information up right at the top. I cannot tell you how frustrating it is when people put all this great information and then I have to dig and waste 5-10 minutes trying to find your email. Your email should be right at the top. You do not need a portfolio for this. Portfolios are very specific for artistic internships. Pay attention to the job description. It's going to say how to apply, have a resume, submit a cover letter if they want it. But again, you should submit one. And a portfolio showcasing XYZ. For roles like development, talent acquisition, marketing internships, those type of non-artistic roles, you of course don't need a portfolio. I've been talking a lot. Sarah, do you have anything else that you want to add?
Just to the cover letter piece, I personally love reading cover letters. If I have the time and if I know that it's, relevant in terms of, Rabia mentioned a lot of development roles or even like public relations, like they want to see a writing sample. So I would say keep that in mind because there are a lot of teams that want it off the bat. When you send me resumes of candidates, if they included a cover letter, be sure to include it. And what I hear from a lot of the teams is that's an automatic like green flag, right? They included it, they took the time to write it out. But I would say when you do write your cover letter, make sure it's addressed appropriately, right? Make sure that, we get a lot of, hey, Disney, or, I'd love to work at Nickelodeon. It's like, make sure you're addressing the correct company. Make sure you're, a lot of people reference like my favorite animated film is from your company, Toy Story. And I'm like, that's not ours. So making sure that you're paying attention, making it detailed. I understand it's a pain to write and you may just be plugging it or copying and pasting, but really just take the time because there are people who actually really care about it. So yeah, I would say just make sure it's detail oriented. It's a first impression, think of it that way. And you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward in that as well. But yeah, Robbie, I think you pretty much covered everything. In terms of portfolio, we always say quality over quantity, on your portfolio. We may not have time to scroll all the way to the bottom of your portfolio. So make sure your proudest work is at the top. So that's the first thing that we see. And I think, our recruiting team, we really enjoy seeing kind of the process of your portfolio, if that makes sense. Yes, your final images are beautiful, gorgeous, but we really want to see how you think as a creative. So helping us kind of walk through your process is really helpful for us to understand how you think and how you came up with that awesome story or that idea. So yeah, I think, I think, Rabia, you pretty much covered everything.
Awesome. All right, you want to jump into the recruiting process?
Yeah, so just kind of want to go through what the typical recruiting process might look like. It might differ from studio to studio, but this is just a general process that that most people follow. So starting with the application, right? You'll find the job on maybe the careers website. You'll apply with your resume, your cover letter, your portfolio, whatever is applicable for that position. And I would say at the time that you're applying, be sure you're reading the job description very carefully. There's tons of information about the specific role on the job description, right? Even things like, is it a part-time role? Is it a full-time role? Does this position require me to be in person or hybrid, or is it remote eligible, right? So all those information, like how much am I getting paid for this internship? All that will be on the job description. And then also just kind of the basic qualifications, right? Are you eligible for this program? Are you not? So it's very important. I know sometimes we get really excited and apply to everything. But again, we want to make sure you're being considered for the ones that you're actually qualifying for, and also the ones that you're actually interested and might be a good candidate for. So it's very important to apply for those that you actually qualify for. I think sometimes people are like, well, they said 6 months out of school is their cutoff. I'm like 9, I think I'll pass. We actually check that. So, just read kind of the fine prints before. So once you apply to the job, once the applications close, that's when the recruiters go in and start reviewing the applications. At DreamWorks specifically, we do not have an automated system or applicant tracking system where it weeds out people. I know a lot of people think that. Maybe some companies do, but we at DreamWorks, we read them with our bare eyes one by one. We think that's a great way to give everyone a shot, but we also don't want to lose people through the cracks because, I don't know, we just don't use the automated filter stuff. Thank you. I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot, but we try our best. So thank you so much for your patience for those who applied to the summer internship. We are slowly getting through them. So yeah, once we start reviewing applications, keep in mind, there's so many positions that are open, right? And what every team is looking for might be a little bit different. So prior to reviewing the applications, what I do as a recruiter is I meet with those hiring teams individually. One production staff might be looking for this in particular. The other production staff might be looking for, something slightly different. And so oftentimes, what the teams are looking for vary depending on the show, depending on the team specifically, what project that they might be in charge of for that season of time. So once I have all my notes, I then go in and look for the candidates. I start sourcing through the thousands of applications. From there, I'll gather batches of people that I think might be a good fit, including their cover letters if included. And then from there, I'll present it to the teams individually. This show, this marketing team, this accounting team, whatever the role may be for. And I typically send over about average 20 or so resumes for them to review. Then the hiring team will go ahead and select a good number of people that they're actually interested in from the batch that I've sent. And from there, I will go ahead and screen the candidates. We just talked about phone screens. Like Rabia said, sometimes we'll just pick up our phone call and cold call you guys because we're in a rush. Sometimes if we have a little bit of leeway in time and, we want to schedule it, I'll reach out and schedule a phone chat. Typically, a phone screen is about 15 to 20 minutes long. And this is where we get on a phone call to check your eligibility, right? In terms of internships for DreamWorks is, are you an active student or are you a recent graduate up to 6 months out? So we check your eligibility. We kind of get to know you a little bit. At this point, we've read your resume and your cover letter in detail. So it's just for me and the recruiters to get to know you and why you applied to this particular position. Again, this is also another first impression, right? This is where we actually get to converse with you. I can't tell you how many times I call somebody and they're like, oh, yay, DreamWorks. And they go, can you remind me, what did I apply for again? Like, what is this? That's not a good look, right? You should know what you applied to, and you should be ready, like Rabia said. So during this time is when I kind of go through a little bit about your resume. If I have any questions, I want some clarification on some of your experiences, and I get to learn about you. But also vice versa, this is a time for the recruiter to share a little bit about the position itself. What the day-to-day might look like, what the actual internship program may entail. Does it come with internship events, how many positions or how long is it, just the nitty-gritty details. We just make sure that you're able to actually do the internship and that you're eligible to move forward. So once the initial screen is done, then you may be called back for an interview. So the interview selection, this is when the candidates, we've done the screen, everything looks good, everything's passed, and the team is still interested in meeting you. Then a recruiter will reach out with kind of next steps. Here's more information. The team would love to meet you for an interview, and we'd love to get that interview scheduled for you. And so typically for internships, the interview is just one round, 30 minutes. Typically, it could be virtual or in person, depending on the program. There are more technical, for example, like software engineering that may require like more than one round of interviews, but typically it's just one round, about 30 minutes, an hour max. And you just meet with the hiring team, right? The hiring team, they're the ones that you would be working with if you were selected for the role. So they'll get to know you a little bit about your background, get to hear about your passion for the industry, why the company, but also they'll go back to your resume and pick out certain things of maybe a leadership opportunity that you had that you wrote on your resume. Tell me about that software that you have experience in. So this is a way for them to do a deeper dive and get to know you and your personality as well. They'll also assess kind of like, are you a good fit for our studio as a whole, but also are you a good fit for our particular team, right? Every hiring team may have their own little quirky culture. They may have their own kind of, characteristics and skills that tend to do well. So that's what they're looking for. I would say a lot of the questions are a mix of like, situational, behavioral, tell me about a time when. Tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. How did you solve an issue in the past? Walk us through. So a lot of kind of those type of questions that they may piggyback off of your resume. Next slide, please. Okay, continuing on interviews. For artistic interviews, they may pull up your portfolio or reel and ask you to walk you through your portfolio. Tell us about your portfolio. What is the story behind it? Who did you work on this particular group project with? What was your input in that project? So you should be ready to walk them through your portfolio. It might be just the one project, it might be all of them. So always be prepared and know exactly what's on your portfolio. Also keep in mind that prior to interview, the team that's meeting you, they've read all your materials, your application materials. They've gone through your portfolio, they've gone through your resume, they most likely have read your cover letter as well. So typically the team will interview a number of candidates. So once the interviews conclude, they'll then discuss amongst themselves and decide who they want to make an offer to. Typically it's one position, right? And so the team will let the recruiting team know who they would like to select and make an offer to. Then the recruiting team will reach out to you, and the recruiter will most likely first make a verbal offer via phone. And this extension of offer will include all the details we've discussed in the beginning, the start and end date of the program, the compensation, the time requirement, whether it's part-time or full-time, benefits if applicable, and any other kind of relevant terms that may be applicable to the position itself. This is when we also kind of, verify all eligibility one more time, even though we've already done that. Any, visa, any updated information that we may need to know. Once the offer is made, typically the candidates will have some time to accept it or decline it. We like to give candidates time to think about it. We know there's a lot of factors. Sometimes candidates are required to relocate to the LA area, for example, or maybe it kind of overlaps with your semester at school. So there's a lot of factors to consider. And so we will give the candidates time to think about it, discuss with their families, and then give them a deadline of when to get back to us with an answer. Once the candidate verbally accepts, then, the recruiter goes back to the team, lets them know the good news, all the details that we've discussed. And then that's when we go ahead and draft your official offer letter, your written letter. And that will list out all the details discussed, the position title, compensation, the dates, etc. And then you'll go in, sign it digitally, and then that triggers a lot of new hire paperwork, basically. So that's when the onboarding starts, right? Onboarding is basically getting you ready to work for that position. So we partner with our HR team. We make sure that your new hire paperwork is provided. And this is where you'll, upload your documents, your information. We'll also get your kind of new hire orientation session set up, and get you kind of ready and trained during the first 2 weeks of the internship so that you're acclimated not only to the program itself, but also your direct immediate team and also the larger company as a whole. So typically, the team that runs the program will make sure that these resources all are available to you. And then that's it. You start on your first day, and that's when the journey begins. All righty, next step. Okay, so the big question we get a lot is, where do I go from here, right? What are some things I can do to make myself stand out? What are some things that I can do to elevate my application? For students and even non-students, there's so many great community organizations that are available for free, right? You're part of, we're doing this through the BRIC Foundation, a great organization that will connect you to so many great resources. There's WIA, as Rabia mentioned, Women in Animation. There's Asians in Animation. There's Black in Animated. There are also like non-animation specific groups that are more for entertainment as a whole, like Group Effort Initiative, right? So there's so many wonderful community organizations that you can join, and they'll probably help you try to land an internship. They have great workshops, classes, and so many great ways to get connected to the industry. And again, one more thing that you can add to your resume as well. We also encourage you to seek mentorship, right? Especially as a student or trying to get into the industry, mentorship is huge. And mentorship could be found through these organizations. WIA has a great mentorship program. Or you can find a mentor on your own, right? I've had interns tell me like they cold reached out to some people on LinkedIn and they eventually kind of became friends, and it was like a, unofficial mentor. You may have professors at your school who may have worked in the industry before and have not a lot of expertise and knowledge who can mentor you. I would also say utilize your career center at school. They could almost be like an unofficial mentor where you get your resume reviewed, where you try mock interviews to help you prepare. So there's so many great opportunities to kind of get practice, ask questions, and get mentored through your process. Volunteering, that's a big one. There's so many awesome conferences like Lightbox that we just mentioned that allow students to volunteer, get experience, go to the conference for free, right? And get connected to the industry. So volunteering might be a great way. And of course, other free resources. There's so many great information online, whether it's YouTube or free classes that artists put out. DreamWorks, every year we have what we call Summer Speaker Series. It's a virtual kind of workshop-based week-long talks where we invite artists and, just staff to talk about not only our studio, but what's going on in the industry. So use those company resources. I would also say check out a lot of the companies, not only websites, but like social media, right? I know for DreamWorks Careers, we have tons of information on our Instagram from, tips and tricks from recruiters or teasers of announcements of upcoming applications coming soon, right? You just want to prep ahead and be in the know. I know we also have like stories of like a day in a life of an intern, like what is it like to be a DreamWorks intern? So there's so many free resources out there that you can kind of be in the know of the industry that could really help you at the time that you're applying. So those are just some tips and tricks. And I say really, just keep applying, right? And during those seasons of dry time where there may not be many applications, always work on honing in on your craft, updating your portfolio, updating your resume. There's always something that could be fine-tuned. You probably have heard me say this on our Instagram live, but we have had interns who told me this is like their 7th, 10th time applying, and they just didn't give up. So it's a very competitive industry, thousands of applications, few slots. And so I would say keep going, keep applying. And you know what? I'm thinking of a particular intern in my head right now. She got her bachelor's in chemistry at UC Berkeley. Realized, art and animation is what I want to do. So she's taking community college classes in the area, and that made her eligible for our internship program because she's still a student. So there's so many ways for those who might not be in school right now, but are trying to pivot or break into the industry. Get creative. It's never too late to go back to school or, pick up a class in storyboarding or animation. So utilize your resources and stay connected to the industry. Okay, Rabia, do we have time for questions?
Yeah, we got a few minutes.
Okay.
I'm trying to put some answers up in the chat, but it's easier to verbally explain than typing it out. So fire away with your questions. I'm always afraid to ask because I know there's a lot.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think it applies to everyone here. I was just wanting to know, because you guys both said that you read a lot of cover letters, and we write one cover letter, we send you one cover letter, and you just keep reading it back to back. So what are like some things that stand out that make you just like roll your eyes, or like I feel like I get so self-conscious when I write something. I'm like, oh my God, everybody says this. Like what are some things that you are like, maybe not that,
Kind of like cover letter red flags.
Yes, like red flags, really annoying things that people say. Like I'm sure you've read people say, I'm very detailed oriented, and then have like typos in their resume and stuff like that. So it's that kind of stuff. What are some things that stand out to you?
Yeah, you answered my question. I would say like, oh, I'm so detail oriented and organized, and there's like the margins aren't aligned, or there's spelling errors, grammatical errors, and of course my personal biggest pet peeve is like addressing the wrong studio, right? So I would say those are my two, where there are a lot of errors, and also it doesn't address the correct company.
Attention to detail, guys.
Yeah. Okay, I'll call on Julian. Go ahead.
Hello. Well, firstly, thank you guys so much for being here. This presentation was incredibly helpful. I would love to know from both of you, from working there for at least 2 years or a few, I was wondering what experiences you have had with interns where something was on their resume and during an interview you were expecting it, and you either saw a lot of proficiency in it or you saw them completely backfire and completely fall flat on their face. I would love to know your experiences with that.
Okay, I'll say this. Yeah. I've caught liars.
Okay.
Don't lie on your resume. That's just really, that's not okay. We've caught liars, whether it's they've said they have experience or they try to sneak it in their resume, like with whiteout, like where you like clever it up. We've caught those. It's not a good look. So I would say no matter what, even if you don't have crazy work experience, the worst thing you can do is lie, because the second you're caught, we're going to remember. We might even put a note on your kind of profile. So don't lie. Remember that we also all go through background checks, right? So there's a lot of things will be revealed then. But I think on the positive side, there are times where I've reviewed a resume, let's say they applied to production, and I noticed that their resume leans very like development heavy. And so I'll get on a call with them. I'll ask questions about their experience and kind of what they're interested in and what their maybe like skill sets might be. And still, I'm like, I think this person might be good at development. And so there are times where I feel so strongly that I will present that candidate to the development team just for them to look at him, even if that person didn't necessarily apply to the position. I'm happy to say that that person I presented is now one of our development interns. She's a featured development intern. But I think in that sense, remember that the recruiter is on your side, essentially, right? If we see that you might be a good fit, even anywhere else in the studio, if it doesn't work out in that moment, we might even consider you for the next round, right? Like, ooh, and so just know that we're on your side as a recruiter. And so I would say that's kind of like the positive thing where I discover things maybe the candidate might not even know about themselves.
Sarah, there's some questions in the Q&A section. I actually totally forgot there was a Q&A section.
Oh, there's a Q&A section?
Wow. We're dumb. So Cleo asked, how often do you onboard first-time applicants, and also are personal projects and unrelated awards a good idea for your resume? Yes and yes and yes. Onboarding first time all the time. I mean, we try to get in fresh that's the whole point of this program, right? Any early career program, getting in fresh talent, new faces. I wish I could share a percentage with you. I don't have percentage to share off the top of my head, but yeah, and also personal projects, unrelated awards, absolutely go ahead and do that. There, you could have a whole bottom section of like awards, achievements, honorable mentions that you can kind of put, which would be great. I think that's totally relevant. All right, and then Charlotte asked, do you need to be an animation student to apply for an animation arts or story internship? No, I mean, your degree is one thing and your portfolio might be another thing. They don't have to align. That's totally okay. But if you are applying to an artistic internship, make sure your portfolio aligns to that focus. So yeah, if you're a comp sci student, we have tech students who, again, like majors who went on and kind of changed courses, changed paths. So absolutely go ahead and do that. Share your story, share that in the cover letter, right? And then Valeria asks, I'm currently doing a master's in concept art. Can I apply? Absolutely. Graduate level students, absolutely more than welcome to apply. Okay, so I know some people are patiently waiting their raising hands. We have 2 minutes. Anastasia, do you want to ask your question?
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. I was wondering, what is something seemingly small that an intern did that stood out in a positive light to you?
Something small. Okay, I'm trying to think back to like my rock star interns. I had one intern. I absolutely loved him. He was one of the just absolutely exceptional when it comes, like, when you go back to thinking about that list that we shared of like potential attributes of what we look for in an intern. He was hungry, he was curious, he was all in from day one. Animation industry, very casual, right? Like I could go in wearing a sweater and jeans and like that's totally permissible. But this guy, he would wear a blazer. And like that's what he became known for. Like he didn't look like he was going off to an interview every day, but like it was a nice little touch, and it was something very small that he did that really just created an impression across the studio. I'm like, oh, Andrew with his blazer, like he's always just so buttoned up, and he just showed that he's very serious about his role and wanting to be here. And then he did tell me, like, everything that I did, I did it like 120%, whether it was big or small. He, didn't take him too seriously, but he took his work seriously, and that I thought was just so beautiful, and I really appreciated it, and I think his team did as well, because he got hired 7 weeks into his internship as a PA. So shout out to Andrew. All right, guys, so we are at time. I wish we could answer all of your questions. There's a lot of questions about reaching out to us afterwards. Please do connect with us on LinkedIn. Connect with all the panelists that you see today for the BRIC Summit. Reach out to them, follow up. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful. This was our first time doing this type of presentation, so really, really appreciate you guys kind of listening to all that and absorbing it. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a great rest of the BRIC Summit. Thanks, y'all.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
you.
guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.